Before time had a name, before the sky curved above the land, there was only darkness. No stars, no earth, no people, only the endless black water, still and deep. This was none, the ancient ocean of chaos. It had no beginning and no end. It was the breathless silence before the first word, the deep sleep before the first dream. Out of this great sea, something stirred. From within the depths of none, a single spark of awareness rose. This spark was not born from flesh, nor shaped by hands. It was a will, a presence, a divine fire that could not stay hidden forever. This was the birth of Ra, the sun god. Ra did not have a father or mother. He brought himself into being. He rose from the waters like a golden light, piercing the dark. His first form was a shining egg, glistening with divine energy. Some say he appeared as a lotus flower opening at dawn, releasing his fragrance into the world. Others say he emerged as a shining child upon a mound of earth that rose from the sea, the first land to exist. Wherever he stood, light followed. As Ra looked around, there was only darkness, but he saw possibility. He spoke his own secret name, and through that sacred word, creation began. With each breath and each thought, he brought the world into being. He created Shu, the god of air, and Tefnut, the goddess of moisture, to be his first children. From their union came Geb, the earth, and Nut, the sky. And from those two came all living things. Ra, through his light and will, set the cycle of life in motion. In the early myths, this divine act was not just a story. It was a map of how the world works. Every sunrise is a return to that moment. The birth of light from darkness, the victory of order over chaos. Every morning, Ra rises again just as he did in the beginning. The people of Egypt knew this. That is why they prayed to the sun with songs and incense at dawn. That is why they watched the eastern horizon with hope. It was not just a star. They saw in it the soul of a god, and in that god, they saw life itself. Ra was not just the sun. He was the force behind it, the mind within the light. He was sight and warmth, breath and time. Without Ra, nothing would grow. Without Ra, there would be no day, no balance, no becoming. The myths tell us that even his tears held power. From his weeping came humanity. Some stories say his tears fell upon the earth and became the first people. Others say he spoke their names and they stepped forward from the silence. Either way, the connection is clear. We are born of light. We are children of the sun. To the ancient Egyptians, this was not poetry. It was truth. The sun gave them crops, warmth, direction, and meaning. It was a clock that ruled their lives. But more than that, it was a sign of the eternal soul. Ra's emergence from none mirrors the journey of every soul that comes into the world from the unknown. Just like Ra, we are born from mystery, enter a world of form and light, and carry within us the power to shape what is around us. In this way, Ra is not just a god in the sky. He is the light within all beings. Temples built in his honor were always aligned with the sun. Obelisks pointed skyward like sunbeams carved from stone. Priests spoke his many names in the first light of day. His symbol, the solar disk, became a crown, a halo, a sign of living power. Every pharaoh was called the son of Ra to show that their rule was blessed by the light of heaven. And yet, Ra's story begins in the water, not the sky. That is the paradox of the sun god, born in the dark, rising into brilliance. He carries both the mystery of the deep and the clarity of light. He reminds us that out of formlessness, beauty can emerge, that from stillness, motion begins. That light is not just something we see, but something we are. As the morning sun climbs the sky, remember this first key. You, too, carry a spark of Ra. Your journey began in silence, but you were made for light. And like Ra, your presence has the power to bring warmth, clarity, and life to the world around you. When the golden light of dawn breaks across the desert sands, something ancient stirs. It is not just the start of another day. To the ancient Egyptians, it is a rebirth of a god, the return of Ra, the sun god, who begins his daily journey across the sky. Every sunrise is not just nature. It is a sacred act. It is Ra awakening from the darkness, stepping once more into the world of time and form. Ra's journey was not imagined as a simple rising and setting. It was a voyage, a divine path through the sky, taken aboard a celestial boat. This boat was called the Manjet, or the Morning Bark. In it, Ra traveled from the eastern horizon, climbing higher and higher into the sky until he reached his most powerful form at midday. The Egyptians did not see the sun as just a ball of fire. They saw it as a living god making his way across the heavens. As he moved, Ra changed forms. In the early hours, he was known as Khepri, the scarab beetle, symbol of becoming, of new life pushing out of the earth. The scarab rolls the sun like it rolls a ball of dung. This was not a joke to them, but a holy symbol. The beetle was a worker of light. At noon, when the sun was highest and strongest, Ra showed his full strength. He was radiant, watching over all, giving heat and clarity. This was a time of Ra in his fullness, the all-seeing God. He burned away illusions. He gave energy to crops, strength to the people, and truth to the land. But as the day wore on, Ra began to age. By evening, he had taken the form of Adam, the wise elder, the sun descending. He no longer burned as fiercely. His light was softer, golden, filled with memory and calm. He approached the western horizon not as a god in defeat, but as a god in transformation. Adam was not dying. He was preparing for his next journey, one even more mysterious than the first. Each part of this cycle was not only physical, but spiritual. Morning, noon, and evening were not just times of day. They were aspects of the soul's path. Every human being, like Ra, rises from nothing, reaches a time of power, and eventually prepares to cross into the unknown. Ra's boat was filled with helpers, gods, spirits, and protectors who sailed with him. These were not just characters in a story. They represented energies and truths that move with us through life. Thoth, the god of wisdom, kept time and order. Ma'at, the goddess of truth, balanced the scales of the world. Without them, Ra's journey would falter. Their presence taught that even the sun needs guidance, law, and harmony to stay on course. The people of Egypt watched the sun's path with reverence. Farmers rose with the dawn and worked by its light. Priests marked the hours with offerings. Children were taught that the sun's journey was their own, to begin each day with purpose, to shine with strength and end with dignity and peace. This daily cycle was also a mirror of the greater cosmos. Ra's voyage was a symbol of all movement, of time, of breath, of becoming. His bark did not just move across the sky. It moved through every heart. When someone stood in the light and closed their eyes, they felt Ra not as a god far away, but as warmth on their skin and rhythm in their chest. Temples were built to follow this sacred journey. Some had inner chambers that lit up only at sunrise or sunset, aligning perfectly with the sun's path. In these moments, the walls glowed, the statues shimmered, and people felt the presence of Ra moving through stone and air. Architecture became a prayer. Every stone pointed toward the sun. The journey of Ra across the sky was also a lesson in balance. If the sun did not rise, the crops would fail. If it rose too strongly, the land would dry and crack. Ra's path had to be just right, steady, faithful, and whole. It taught the people to honor balance in their own lives. Not too fast, not too slow. Not too proud, not too low. Just as Ra moves with grace, so too should the soul. At sunset, when Ra reached the edge of the world, he was not seen as disappearing. He was crossing into another phase of his journey. The people knew that night was not the end, but the beginning of another path, one that would continue in the underworld. And so they did not fear the dark, for they trusted the rhythm. The next sunrise was promised. This cycle of Ra, morning, noon, evening, was carved into tombs, painted on temple walls, and sung in sacred hymns. It gave order to universe and meaning to life. It was not superstition. It was deep knowing. It was wisdom dressed as a story, light wrapped in myth. Today, we still feel this rhythm. We wake, we act, we rest. We rise, we shine, we slow. Ra's journey is not locked in the past. It lives in the heartbeat of every day. The sun reminds us that we are part of something vast, beautiful, and eternal. When you look at the sky and see the sun climbing higher, think of Ra on his boat. Think of Kepri pushing the day into motion, of Ra shining with strength, of Adam preparing to cross into silence. Think of your own path, not just your hours, but your life, and ask, where am I on this journey? Am I rising? Am I shining? Am I preparing to return to the mystery? The story of the sun is not just about light. It is about motion, courage, and renewal. And above all, it is about the soul's journey through the day, through life, through eternity. As the final light of day slips beneath the horizon and shadows stretch long over the earth, something profound takes place. The golden god who journeyed across the sky begins a second, secret path, one that few see but all souls must know. This is a descent of Ra into the Duat, the underworld. It is a journey not of ending but of transformation, a sacred passage through darkness that holds the promise of dawn. To the ancient Egyptians, night was not emptiness. It was a place, a realm hidden beneath the world, filled with gateways, spirits, and danger. This realm was called the Duat. It was both a real and symbolic world. Real in the sense that every night the sun vanished into it. Symbolic because it reflected the mysteries of the inner soul, the challenges that come when the light is gone. Ra did not rest at night. He entered the Duat aboard a second boat, the Mesek, the evening bark. In this vessel, he sailed through 12 regions, one for each hour of the night. Each region held its own trials, its own guardians, and its own meaning. Each hour was a chapter in the book of the soul. At the heart of the Duat, danger awaited. The great serpent Apophis, also called Apep, lay coiled in the dark. Apophis was the embodiment of chaos, the enemy of light. He had no form that could be fully seen, for he was a shadow that existed before creation. Each night, Apophis tried to stop Ra's passage, to devour the sun, to bring eternal darkness to the world. But Ra was not alone. In his boat were the gods and protectors who traveled with him. Among them was Set, the god of strength and storm, who stood at the front of the boat and fought Apophis with spear and flame. There was Mehen, the serpent protection, coiled around the bark to shield it from attack. There were wise spirits, divine scribes, and ancestral souls, forces of harmony and justice that stood against the chaos. These battles were not just for the sun. They were for all creation. If Apophis won, the world would freeze in night. But Ra, with help, always passed through. He was wounded, wearied, but never destroyed. This taught a powerful lesson, that darkness must be faced, not avoided. That even the sun god must travel through the unknown, confront the serpent, and emerge renewed. Each hour of the night was also a gate, a trial for the soul. In the sacred texts, these gates were guarded by fierce beings. To pass, Ra or any soul had to speak the correct words, know the right truths, carry the right light. This is why the Book of the Dead, the Book of Gates, and the Amduat were written. Not just to tell stories, but to guide the soul through the night. This nightly journey of Ra became the pattern for every human soul after death. Just as the sun descends, so too does the soul leave the body and enter the Duat. Just as Ra faces judgment, tests, and rebirth, so too must each soul prove its worth, overcome fear, and rise again into light. Ra's descent is the soul's descent. His resurrection is the soul's hope. In the deepest part of the night, in the darkest hour, Ra reaches the center of the Duat. There he unites with his own corpse, his own earlier self, which lies waiting like a seed in the soil. In this moment, time folds inward, past and present become one. Ra, the living light, embraces Ra, the hidden fire, and from this union, light is born again, a spark of gold in the heart of darkness. This is the secret of rebirth, not through escape, but through descent, not by avoiding the shadow, but by entering it and carrying light within. The people of Egypt did not fear the night. They prepared for it, honored it, and learned from it. They knew that even when the sun was gone, the journey continued. The Duat was not hell. It was not a punishment. It was a path, a place of transformation where the soul was weighed, tested, and purified. The scales of Ma'at were there, where the heart was balanced against the feather of truth. Only those whose hearts were light with justice could pass. Others were swallowed by the devourer, lost to time. In this way, the journey of Ra was also a moral mirror. It reminded the living to live with integrity, to speak truth, to act with kindness, because the night would come, and the path through was not walked with riches or titles, but with truth, courage, and light. Artists painted these scenes on tomb walls, carved them into stone, and sang them in sacred rituals. The image of Ra's boat in the underworld was not a tale for children. It was the core of their spiritual life. Pharaohs were buried with maps of the Duat, spells of protection, and prayers to guide them as they followed the sun god through the hidden world. And every morning, when the sun rose again in the east, the people knew the battle had been won. Ra had passed through shadow and come out the other side. And so could they. This cycle continues. Still, every sunset holds a promise of night. Every night holds a whisper of dawn. The sun does not vanish. It transforms. It reminds us that darkness is not the end, but the beginning of a deeper journey. That the soul's path is not a straight line, but a spiral, through light, through dark, and back again. So when you see the sun slip behind the mountains, remember, Ra is sailing. The night is a passage, not a prison. And beyond every shadow waits a brighter light. In the beginning, Ra rose alone. He was the first light, the flame in the darkness, the breath that shaped the world. But as time moved forward, the divine realm expanded. New gods appeared, each holding a part of truth, each reflecting a piece of the mystery. And in this expanding spiritual sky, something profound began to happen. Ra did not stand apart from the others. He joined with them. He fused, transformed, and revealed himself in new forms. The ancient Egyptians understood that divinity was not fixed. Gods could merge. They could reflect each other, overlap, and evolve. This was not seen as contradiction, but as richness. And no god shows is better than Ra, whose light took on many names, many shapes, each one revealing something deeper. The first great fusion was Ra and Ammonius. Ammonius was an older, more hidden god. His name meant the hidden one. He was the invisible breath of life, the wind that moved but could not be seen. He lived in silence, in the spaces between form. As the spiritual thought of Egypt matured, people began to ask, what is beyond even the sun? What force stand behind the light? The answer came as Ammonius Ra. This fusion brought together the two great powers. Ammonius, the hidden force of the cosmos, and Ra, the revealed light of day. Ammonius Ra was both mystery and clarity. He was a god who could not be seen and the god who shone in the sky. In this way, Ammonius Ra became the king of gods. He was worshipped across Egypt, from the great temple at Karnak to the deserts beyond the Nile. His name was spoken in whispers and in song. He was the soul of the sun and the breath of the unseen. This blending of hidden and revealed showed a profound truth. The divine is both beyond and within, silent and speaking, dark and light. Just as Ra sails through the sky, Ammonius flows through the spirit. One is seen, the other felt. Together, they form the whole. Another powerful fusion came in the form of Ra Horikti. Horus, the falcon god, was the son of Osiris, the avenger's father and protector of kings. He ruled the sky, and his eyes were the sun and moon. When Ra merged with Horus, they became Ra Horikti, or Ra, Horus of the two horizons. This was not just a new name. It was a vision of the sun moving from dawn to dusk, east to west, from birth to death and back again. Ra Horikti was the sun in motion, the falcon flying across time. He symbolized continuity, protection, and the unity of heaven and earth. Pharaohs often invoked this form, for it connected them with both kingship and cosmic order. Ra Horikti's presence reminded the people that the sun was not only a source of light. It was a bridge between worlds, a messenger between gods and men. But the most radical vision of Ra came with a single god, a single disk, and a single man, Aten and Akhenaten. In the 14th century BCE, a pharaoh named Akhenaten rose to power. He looked to the sky and saw not many gods, but one. Not a god with face or form, but a presence. The Aten, the radiant solar disk. The Aten was not the boat or the god riding it. The Aten was the light itself. The rays of the sun that touched the earth, the warmth that filled the lungs, the energy that made plants grow. This was divinity. Akhenaten declared that there was no god but Aten. He closed the temples of other gods, moved the capital to a new city, and composed hymns that sang only of the sun's pure light. In his vision, the Aten was not born or dying. It simply existed, forever shining. The sun no longer had a face. It became the source of life itself. The art of this time changed. Gods were no longer shown with animal heads or human forms. Instead, the Aten was drawn as a disk with rays ending in open hands, reaching out to bless and nourish. It was a vision of intimacy, a divine light that touched all beings equally, without need for temples or priests. But this change did not last. After Akhenaten's death, Egypt returned to the old ways. The temples were reopened, the many gods remembered, yet something of the Aten remained. The idea that the divine is one, that light is sacred, that the sun connects all living things. This truth had been planted. It would echo later in many lands, in many tongues. Ra, Ammonius Ra, Horti, and the Aten. Each form revealed a layer of the divine. Each showed how the sun was not just a burning star, but a living mystery, a god that could be father and falcon, wind and fire, visible and unseen, a god that could burn with justice, heal with warmth, rise with hope. The fusion of gods in Egypt was not confusion. It was a sacred lens. It taught that truth is vast, that no single name, no single face can hold it all, that the divine wears many robes, walks many paths, and speaks in many tongues. Just as light breaks into colors through a prism, so too does Ra reveal himself through many names. And through each form, one thing remains. Light is life. Light is order. Light is the path. As you look to the sun and feel its warmth on your face, remember the names it once wore. Remember that behind the light is a spirit, and behind the spirit, a mystery. And whether you call it Ra, Ammonius Ra, Horti, or Aten, know that it speaks to you without words. It calls not just to your eyes, but to your soul. High above the earth, riding the currents of sky and time, the sun does more than shine. It rules. It sees. It restores. In the sacred mind of ancient Egypt, the sun was not merely a fire in the sky. It was a throne of gold, a judge's eye, and a river of healing light. It was not passive. It was active. And at its center was Ra, the sovereign spirit of the heavens. Ra was not a distant god. He was the king of gods and men, the divine ruler whose crown was light itself. From his place in the sky, he looked down on the world, not as a watcher only, but as a governor. His rays touched every mountain, every field, every creature. Nothing was hidden from his sight. He did not speak in words, but in heat and clarity. He guided the world not with hands, but with light. In this way, the sun became a model for kingship. Just as Ra brought order to the sky, pharaohs would bring truth, balance, justice to the land. They were not just political rulers. They were divine stewards, living emblems of the sun. That is why pharaohs were called the son of Ra. It was a sacred title. It meant they were chosen to reflect the light of heaven on earth. But Ra was not only a king, he was also a judge. Each morning, as his light returned, it was as if truth itself was reborn. Shadows fled. Secrets were uncovered. Crooked paths were made straight. In Egyptian belief, the sun saw all and forgot nothing. It was the ultimate witness. This judgment was not cruel. It was natural. Like sunlight breaking through mist, truth dispersed confusion. Like the heat of day revealing the tracks of animals, Ra's presence made all things visible. To live in the light of Ra was to live in honesty, in balance with the world and the self. One of the most powerful symbols of this role was the eye of Ra. The eye was not just a symbol of sight. It was an extension of Ra himself. It could act independently. It could defend, destroy, protect, or heal. It was a living force. Sometimes it was shown as a lioness, fierce and untamed, sent out by Ra to punish those who rebelled against order. Sometimes it was a gentle presence, watching and guiding. The story of the eye teaches a deep truth, that divine power is not just light. It is clarity. It does not only illuminate, it pierces. It does not only warm, it purifies. The eye of Ra burned away falsehood, revealed what was hidden, and restored balance. In this sense, Ra was the sun and the law, the heat and the truth. And yet, beyond the throne and beyond the sword, Ra was also a healer. The sun gives life. Its rays feed the earth, draw water from the soil, call seeds from sleep, and bring the world to bloom. Without it, nothing grows. This was not lost on the Egyptians. They saw the sun not only as a king and judge, but as a physician of the world. Temples were built to harness this light. Certain sanctuaries were designed so that, at the right hour, the sun would enter through a hidden doorway and flood the inner chamber with gold. In this moment, it was believed healing could occur. The sick were brought to bathe in the light. The dying were comforted by it. The soul was strengthened by its touch. Ra's light was also thought to move through the body like breath. The act of breathing in the warmth of the sun was a kind of sacred communion. People would raise their arms to the sky, not just in prayer, but in drawing the energy of life. The word for soul, Ka, was connected with the power of the sun. It was believed that the Ka could be nourished by sunlight, fed by its unseen power. This healing was not just physical. It was emotional, spiritual, cosmic. To walk in the sun was to be embraced by the divine. To lie beneath its warmth was to be seen and soothed. In a world filled with mystery, death, and the unknown, the sun was a promise that life continued, that wounds could close, that light would return. This is why the sun was not feared. Even when it burned, its fire was not punishment. It was purification. It cleansed. It renewed. Even when it seemed harsh, it held purpose. And so the people of Egypt did not worship the sun out of ignorance or superstition. They honored it because they understood its wisdom. They saw in its cycle the great truths of the universe, that all things must rise, all things must be tested, and all things can be made whole. In the temples of Heliopolis, the city of the sun, priests would offer bread, incense, and song each morning. They would recite hymns praising Ra's justice, his kingship, and his healing power. One ancient text says, "O Ra, who comes forth with the dawn, who gives breath to the nostrils of the world, come in peace, shine in peace, and bring your peace to the hearts of men." This prayer was not just for crops or safety. It was a wish for balance, for the return of truth, for the healing of the heart. Today, we still feel the power of the sun. When its rays touch our skin, something awakens. Our bodies shift. Our minds clear. Our spirits lift. It is not superstition. It is memory, a memory deep in the human soul, that light means life, that warmth brings comfort, that the sun is more than a star. It is a reminder, a rhythm, a king. So let us honor the sun, not just for what it does, but for what it means. Let us walk in its path with honesty, live under its gaze with integrity, and open our hearts to the healing it brings. For in the light of Ra, we find not only the world, but ourselves. Though the stones of ancient Egypt lie weathered by wind and time, the story of the sun god has not faded. Ra may no longer be worshipped at dawn by robed priests in golden temples, but his legacy moves quietly through the world, hidden in symbols, echoed in faiths, shining in the silent rhythms of human life. The sun, once a living god to the ancient Egyptians, still rules the sky, and in its light, the memory of Ra endures. The legacy begins in the earth itself. Across the Nile Valley, temples still stretch toward the sun. Heliopolis, once the city of Ra, now lies in ruins, yet its name, City of the Sun, still speaks. There, the first temples rose to honor the rising light. Stone pillars caught the dawn, and sacred texts were written to tell of Ra's journey. Inscriptions carved thousands of years ago still whisper his names, still describe his path from birth to descent to rebirth. Obelisks, tall, narrow monuments carved from a single piece of stone, were erected to pierce the sky. Their tips, often covered in gold, captured the first light of morning. They were not just markers, they were frozen sunbeams. To the people, they were symbols of the Benben stone, the sacred mound from which Ra first rose. Many of these obelisks still stand, not only in Egypt but in Rome, London, Paris, New York. They remain silent witnesses to a time when light was divine, and the hymns live on. Ancient texts such as the Great Hymn to the Aten, attributed to Pharaoh Akhenaten, are some of the earliest spiritual poems celebrating the sun as the source of all life. In it, the Aten, Ra in his form as the sun disk, is praised as the creator of all peoples, languages, and lands. The hymn speaks not only of Egyptian life, but of universal light, a divine presence that reaches all things equally. You rise in the eastern horizon. You fill every land with your beauty. Though you are far, your rays are on earth. This language, though written in stone thousands of years ago, still moves the soul today. It is not bound by religion or time. It speaks to something older than nations, the shared longing of all people for warmth, clarity, and meaning. As centuries passed, the vision of RA evolved, echoed, and transformed. In ancient Rome, the sun god became Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun, whose birthday was celebrated near the winter solstice, the time when light begins to return. This date, December 25th, would later become Christmas Day, blending the sun's rebirth with the birth of the Christ. Even in Christianity, the sun shines through. Christ was called the light of the world. His halo a radiant disk, his rising compared to the dawn. In Hinduism, the sun is Surya, a golden charioteer who brings life and order. In Buddhism, enlightenment is often symbolized by a radiant sun breaking through clouds of ignorance. In Mesoamerican cultures, the sun was a warrior god, a heart that demanded sacrifice. In each, we see echoes of RA, the god who journeys, who watches, who returns. In the West, symbols of solar power endure. The halo, the golden crown, the shining aura, these are remnants of sun worship. Even modern phrases like enlightenment, illumination, a bright idea, all speak of light as wisdom, truth, and healing. We do not bow to the sun, but we still look to it with reverence. And science, too, has come full circle. We now know that all life on Earth is sustained by the sun. Its light feeds plants, stirs oceans, powers weather, and warms our blood. Our bodies respond to it with chemical joy. It regulates our sleep, our moods, our breath. And though we explain it in terms of fusion and photons, the awe remains. To look into the sky and feel its power is to feel what the Egyptians felt, that this light is not just energy, it is life. Today, more than ever, the world turns again to the sun, not just a symbol, but a solution. Solar energy, clean and endless, offers a path forward. In this way, Ra's promise continues, not as myth alone, but as power. The same sun that guided pharaohs may yet guide our future. But beyond technology, beyond tradition, there is something deeper. The story of RA speaks to the soul. It tells us that life moves in cycles, that darkness is not the end, that truth will rise again, that within each of us there is a spark of the sun, a piece of divine fire waiting to shine. It invites us to live with light, not just by sunlight, but as light, to bring clarity where there is confusion, warmth where there is cold, renewal where there is despair. It tells us to rise each day, not just in body, but in spirit, to walk the sky as RA did, courageous, balanced, whole. So what does the legacy of the sun god mean today? It means honoring the rhythms of nature, watching the sun not just for weather, but for wisdom. It means remembering that behind every dawn is a mystery, that behind every name is a truth, that we are all, in some way, children of the light. It means standing still for a moment in the morning and feeling the gold on your skin, not as science, but as blessing, not as habit, but as grace. The temples may be ruins, the language may be lost, but the sun still rises. And with each new day, RA is reborn. In you, in me, in all who look to the sky and feel something greater stir inside.